Who's there?" Gage whirled around, a jagged piece of ice once again forming above his outstretched palm. A small shadow yelped and darted back into the cave entrance.
"It's just me, Sharana. Can I come out?"
"Yeah, of course." He swallowed his heart, which had jumped into his throat. Sharana's diminutive figure stepped out into the moonlight and walked toward him, her breath forming little clouds along the way. Her long red hair tumbled loose from beneath a gray knit beanie. She'd put on an emerald green sweater and her hands were tucked into the pockets of her overalls. "Sorry." He let the shard vanish back into the Fae currents. "You startled me. I had a close encounter with a bobcat." She peered into the trees, seeming a little nervous.
"Was it mutated like those drabbits?"
"No, she ran off with a bit of jerky I tossed her. Poor thing was starving." Sharana pursed her lips.
"I'm sure demonic mutations being introduced into the ecosystem have thrown off the balance. Normal animals are going to have a hard time adjusting to prey suddenly occupying a higher spot in the food chain."
"I hate to see them starve," Gage said. "I guess we're all fighting for our place in the food chain now, aren't we?" Scenes from his premonition flashed through his mind, and he glanced up at the sky again. Sharana noticed and followed his gaze, brow furrowing.
"Anything I should worry about?"
"Not unless the moon disappears and the stars begin to fall."
Do they have a habit of doing that?"
She sounded half amused and half frightened. Gage took a deep breath to calm himself. "I had a strange vision earlier." He told her about watching Elikari sacrifice a prisoner. He described the bone altar and how she called down the power of a falling star. When he mentioned the enormous lotus flower, Sharana's curiosity was piqued, and she asked him a barrage of questions, most of which he couldn't answer. "I woke just in time to watch the dream Fae vanish," he finished. "I was cultivating it in my sleep and got a new prescience aspect. It had to be a premonition." Sharana stared up at the sky as she absorbed what he told her.
"So you wanted to make sure it wasn't real? To see if the moon had shrunk and a meteor shower had spontaneously begun?"
Gage blushed. She was making fun of him. "I know it's silly."
"Not at all,"
she reassured him.
"It hasn't even been one full week since all this started. Now there are demons, secret societies that hunt those demons, magic, and all of it goes back thousands of years."
Sharana shook her head.
"Anything can happen, including the moon vanishing. So no, it's not silly. But it is important. We need to tell the others."
She turned to walk back into the speakeasy. "Hang on a second," Gage said. "Please. I don't want to tell them. Not yet." She peered at him with a look of confusion. A gust of wind blew through the trees, sending shadows across her face along with stray locks of hair.
"Why not? Even if we don't know when it'll happen, they have to know."
"They do," he agreed. "But the moment I tell them, they'll want to head straight into town."
"Well, yeah.
Sharana said.
Why shouldn't we?"
"If we did, then what?" he asked. "There are dozens, maybe hundreds of demons guarding the prison camp, and some were pretty high level. We need more resources and more information." A flicker of doubt passed over her face.
"We could figure something out. We can't just let her sacrifice our families."
The anguish in her voice was heartbreaking. "I know you're worried sick about Sean and Ryan, and I'm worried about my grandma. But if we wake up the others, we'll end up arguing again. They don't want to risk going downstairs, but the doorway might vanish before we ever open it. Then we've lost the chance for good." Gage kicked his boot into the snow. "I'm all for taking action, but we can't just wing this. We got lucky with Lennox, and we may have lost Tash for good. We need answers about what's down that staircase. We need a plan."
"And you think Tash left one in the basement?"
Sharana sounded doubtful. "I don't know," he admitted. "But why shouldn't we find out? It's crazy, even suicidal, to rush to Clearwater without having all the information we can get."